The orbital defense platform Resolute hung against the black canvas of space, its titanium alloy hull gleaming in the reflected light of Earth below. On the command deck, Admiral Marcus Vale stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing through the panoramic viewport at the blue-green jewel of humanity's homeworld. 30 years of peace, he murmured. Sometimes I wonder if we've grown too comfortable. Lieutenant Commander Shayla Rodriguez approached with a data tablet. The Vega sector stations are all reporting nominal status. Admiral, the final research outpost came online at 0600 hours. Vale nodded. Good. President Reyes will be pleased. The Council has invested heavily in those stations. Do you think it matters? Rodriguez asked. In the grand scheme of galactic politics. I mean, we're still just a small player. Small, perhaps, Vale said, turning from the viewport. But independent, and that's worth defending. The lieutenant commander's reply was cut short by a sudden alarm. Red warning lights flashed across the command deck as officers scrambled to their stations. Report, Vale commanded, his voice steady despite the surge of adrenaline. Massive energy signature at the edge of the solar system. Sir, the tactical officer called out. It's unlike anything in our database. Vale strode to the central holographic display. Show me. The image materialized. A colossal warship, at least 20 times the size of the Resolute. Its hull, bristling with weapon emplacements. Its design was unmistakably alien, angular, predatory, and utterly foreign to human aesthetics. Are they transmitting? Vale asked. Yes, sir. System-wide broadcast, all frequencies. On screen. The holographic display shifted, and Vale found himself staring at a towering humanoid figure. The alien skin was pale blue, stretched taut over sharp facial features. Ornate armor encased its massive frame, and a crown of what appeared to be crystalline material adorned its head. People of Earth, the figure's voice boomed, translated by the ship's computers. I am Emperor Krethos of the Celestian Dominion, sovereign ruler of 3,000 worlds across 12 sectors. Your civilization has been observed and found worthy of inclusion in our glorious empire. Vale's jaw tightened as the alien continued. You will submit to Celestian authority within 48 of your Earth hours. Your leaders will pledge fealty. Your military assets will be surrendered. Your resources will serve the greater glory of the Dominion. The Emperor's eyes, pupilless and silver, seemed to stare directly at Vale. Resistance is not advised. Worlds that resist are not permitted to survive. The transmission ended, leaving the command deck in stunned silence. Vale turned to his communications officer. Get me President Reyes, now. The unified council chamber buzzed with panicked voices. Representatives from Earth's nations and colony worlds filled the amphitheater, their faces drawn with fear and uncertainty. At the center of the chaos, President Alina Reyes maintained her composure, though the lines of strain showed clearly on her face. Order, she called, her voice amplified through the chamber. We must have order if we're to address this crisis. The room gradually quieted as Admiral Vale entered, accompanied by Science Director Marisol Vega. Vale noted how different the scientist looked from their last meeting, her usually immaculate appearance now disheveled. Dark circles under her eyes, suggesting she hadn't slept since the Celestian ultimatum. Chancellor Liao rose from his seat, his thin frame nearly vibrating with tension. Madam President, we have less than 36 hours remaining. We must prepare a delegation to meet with the Emperor and negotiate terms. Negotiate? Vale couldn't keep the edge from his voice. Did that transmission sound like an invitation to negotiate, Chancellor? Liao turned, his expression tight. And what would you have us do, Admiral? That vessel outmasses our entire defense fleet combined. Their technology is clearly superior. Would you have us sacrifice billions of lives on the altar of pride? Not pride, Vale said. Sovereignty. President Reyes raised a hand. Director Vega, what can you tell us about these Celestians? Our databases have no record of them. Marisol Vega stepped forward, activating her data tablet. That's because they've never ventured into this sector before. But we've been compiling information from our deep space observatories and communications with other species. She projected a galactic map into the center of the chamber. The Celestian Dominion controls this region, approximately 18% of the known galaxy. They've been expanding steadily for at least 3 centuries. And what happens to worlds that submit? Reyes asked. Vega's expression darkened. They're stripped of resources. Populations are often relocated to labor colonies. Cultural identities are erased. The Celestians consider themselves inherently superior. All other species exist to serve. And those who resist? Vale asked, though he already knew the answer. Orbital bombardment. Total destruction of all infrastructure. In extreme cases, they've rendered planets uninhabitable. Chancellor Liao spread his hands. Then our course is clear. We must submit for now. Buy time. Perhaps we can negotiate better terms than other worlds. Or perhaps, Vale countered, we become the first world to successfully defy them. Liao laughed bitterly. With what? Our fleet is formidable against pirates and small powers. But against this? Admiral Vale, President Reyes interjected, what is your military assessment? Vale straightened. In a direct confrontation, our chances are minimal. But warfare isn't always direct. I believe we should mobilize everything we have, not just Earth's defense forces, but our colonies, our allies among other species. You're talking about galactic war, Liao said. I'm talking about survival, Vale replied. On our terms, not theirs. The debate might have continued, but a junior communications officer burst into the chamber. Madam President, Admiral, we're receiving a transmission, encrypted, on a frequency I've never seen before. It claims to be from inside the Celestian Dominion. Reyes exchanged glances with Vale. Put it through! The holographic display flickered, then resolved into the image of another Celestian. This one was female, lacking the Emperor's imposing stature, her armor simpler but still elegant. I am Lyra Solari, First Minister of the Antares Coalition, she began. Her voice hushed. I speak for worlds within the Dominion that have never accepted Krithos' rule. We have been watching Earth, your civilization's resilience, your commitment to self-determination. These are values we share. How do we know this isn't a trick? Liao demanded. A test of our loyalty. You don't, Lyra acknowledged. But consider this. Krithos rules through fear because true power eludes him. His empire is vast but fractured. Rebellions simmer on 100 worlds. His fleet stretches thin. If Earth stands against him, publicly, defiantly, others will follow. You're asking us to be the spark, Reyes said. I'm telling you that you already are, Lyra replied. Krithos fears you. Why else would he come himself, with his flagship? He usually sends lesser commanders to subjugate new worlds. Vale stepped forward. If what you say is true, we need more than words. We need intelligence, weaknesses we can exploit. I've transmitted an encrypted data packet with this message. It contains schematics, patrol schedules, communications protocols, everything we've managed to gather over decades of resistance. Lyra's image flickered. I must go. They're scanning for unauthorized transmissions. Remember, you are not alone in this fight. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in contemplative silence. Director Vega was already examining her tablet. The data packet is real and extensive. President Reyes stood, her decision visible in her posture before she spoke. Admiral Vale, you have 24 hours to develop a defense strategy. Director Vega, analyze that data for anything we can use. Chancellor Liao, contact every allied world and species. We need a coalition. And if we fail? Liao asked quietly. Reyes met his gaze. Then we fail on our feet, with our dignity intact. Humanity will not kneel. Dr. Marisol Vega hadn't left her laboratory since the emergency council session. Her team worked frantically around her, analyzing the Celestian data, running simulations, and coordinating with military strategists. She rubbed her eyes, fighting exhaustion. "Anything?" she asked her deputy, Dr. Kwame Nkosi. He shook his head. "Their shield technology is like nothing we've encountered. Conventional weapons won't penetrate." "There has to be something," she insisted, scrolling through the schematics again. "No system is perfect." A junior analyst approached hesitantly. "Director Vega, I might have found something. It's about their propulsion system." Vega turned. "Show me." The analyst brought up a cross-section of the Emperor's flagship. They use a gravity drive reactor, essentially creating artificial singularities to warp space-time. Incredibly powerful. But the energy containment systems? Vega's eyes widened as she followed the analyst's reasoning. They're vulnerable to electromagnetic disruption, at exactly the right frequency. She grabbed her tablet, fingers flying over the surface as she ran calculations. This could work. This could actually work. She hit the communications panel. "Get me Admiral Vale." On the bridge of the Resolute, Vale received Vega's transmission with guarded optimism. "You're sure about this?" "As sure as I can be without testing it on an actual Celestian vessel," she replied. "But the physics is sound. A properly calibrated electromagnetic pulse, delivered directly to the reactor housing, would temporarily disable their gravity drive. Without it, the flagship is just a very large target." "Temporarily?" Vale questioned. "How long?" "Minutes. Maybe. Long enough to make a statement." Vale considered this. "Getting close enough to deploy such a device would be nearly impossible." "Not if they don't see us coming," Vega countered. "I've been studying their sensor technology. They use a quantum resonance system, incredibly precise, but with one blind spot. If a ship were to precisely match the resonance frequency and approach from within the flagship's gravity wake, they'd be effectively invisible," Vale finished. "But that would require getting behind them first." "That's your department, Admiral." Vale nodded. "I'll make it mine. Get that EMP device ready. And Marisol, good work." He ended the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. "Contact Tantalus Station on Mars. We're moving our command center there. And send word to every ship in the fleet. I want them converging on Mars, but using irregular vectors. Nothing that suggests a massing of forces." "Yes, sir. And the civilian evacuation?" Vale's expression hardened. "Continues as planned. Every colony world has opened its doors. But make sure President Reyes understands. I need at least 12 more hours before we show our hand." While Earth's defenses mobilized in secret, President Reyes stood before the global communication array, preparing to address not just her world, but the Emperor himself. Cameras hummed to life as technicians counted down. "Transmitting system-wide in 3, 2, 1. Reyes straightened, her gaze direct and unwavering. "Emperor Krethos of the Celestian Dominion, I am President Alina Reyes of the Unified Earth Council. I have received your ultimatum and come to deliver humanity's response." She paused, feeling the weight of billions of lives resting on her next words. Throughout our history, humanity has faced those who would dominate us. We have endured tyrants, survived natural disasters, and overcome our own worst impulses. Each time, we have emerged stronger, more united, more determined to forge our own path. You offer us submission, but we have another word for it: slavery. You promise inclusion in your empire, but we recognize it as cultural extinction. You threaten us with destruction if we refuse. Yet in doing so, you reveal your true nature, not a leader worthy of loyalty, but a conqueror who understands only force. Earth rejects your ultimatum. We will not surrender our sovereignty, our resources, or our future. If you seek to destroy us for this choice, know that humanity will not perish easily, and our defiance will echo across the stars, inspiring others to throw off your yoke. Our response is this: withdraw your forces, recognize Earth's independence and that of any world that seeks self-determination, and we can establish peaceful relations. Continue on your current path, and you will find that the human spirit burns brightest when threatened. The choice, Emperor, is yours. As the transmission ended, Chancellor Liao approached, his face ashen. You've doomed us all. No, Reyes replied. I've given us something worth fighting for. She activated her secure communicator. Admiral Vale, the message is delivered. The Emperor has his answer. The rest is up to you. Nah. The response came swiftly. Throughout the solar system, Celestian warships began to advance, smaller than the flagship but still imposing. Orbital defense platforms around Earth activated their shields as civilian evacuation ships streamed toward the jump points. On Tantalus Station, suspended in Mars orbit, Admiral Vale watched the tactical display with Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez at his side. They're deploying in standard conquest formation, Rodriguez observed. They're treating this like any other subjugation. Good, Vale said. Let them underestimate us. The communications officer called out, Admiral, Emperor Krethos is broadcasting again. The Emperor's visage appeared, his silver eyes now burning with cold fury. Your defiance is noted, President Reyes, and it will be remembered as humanity's final, futile gesture. I had planned to preserve your world and its resources. Now, I will make an example of Earth that will echo across 1,000 years. Vale turned to his assembled officers as the transmission ended. He's angry. Anger leads to mistakes. He activated the station-wide communication system. All personnel, this is Admiral Vale. In 1 hour, we face the greatest threat humanity has ever encountered. Some would say our cause is hopeless. I say they underestimate what humans can accomplish when fighting for our home. Our plan is audacious. While Earth's defenses engage the Celestian attack ships, a strike team led by myself will approach the Emperor's flagship from within its sensor blind spot. Director Vega has identified a critical vulnerability in their propulsion system. If we can exploit it, we create an opening, not just for Earth, but for every world that suffers under Celestian rule. I won't lie to you. Many of us won't return from this mission. But whether we live or die, today, humanity proves that we would rather perish free than live as slaves. To your stations. For Earth. As officers dispersed to their posts, Dr. Vega entered the command center, carrying a metallic case. The EMP device is ready, she said, but I've made some modifications to the original design. Vale raised an eyebrow. What kind of modifications? I'm coming with you, she stated flatly. The device requires precise calibration at the target site. No one else understands the technology well enough. Absolutely not, Vale replied. This is a military operation, and it will fail without me, she interrupted. This isn't negotiable. Admiral, the fate of our world is at stake. Vale studied her face, recognizing the same determination he felt. Do you know how to handle a weapon? I grew up on the Mars frontier. My father made sure all his children could defend themselves. Vale nodded slowly. Report to the assault shuttle in 30 minutes. Combat gear. And Marisol. This isn't a research expedition. No, she agreed, her dark eyes solemn. It's a last stand. The battle began with a fury that transformed the space around Earth into a storm of energy weapons and missile contrails. Celestian warships advanced methodically, their superior firepower evident as they systematically targeted defense platforms. Yet Earth's forces fought with desperate ingenuity. Smaller craft darted between the alien vessels, exploiting gaps in their formation. Colony ships that had appeared to flee suddenly reversed course, revealing themselves as disguised weapon platforms that launched devastating strikes before being destroyed. On the command deck of Tantalus Station, Chancellor Liao watched the tactical display with growing dismay. "We're losing," he said to President Reyes, who had relocated to the Mars facility when the attack began. "We're buying time," she corrected him. "Look there. The Emperor's flagship is holding position at the edge of the system. Krethos wants to witness our destruction personally, just as Lyra Solari predicted. His arrogance is our opportunity." Liao shook his head. "Vale's mission is suicide." "Perhaps," Reyes acknowledged. "But sometimes," Admiral Vale reminded me, "victory isn't about surviving. It's about changing the rules of engagement." She activated her communicator. "Status of Operation Blindside?" "Strike team is away," the tactical officer reported. "Stealth systems engaged. The Celestians are focused on the main battle. They haven't detected the assault shuttle." Reyes nodded. "Now we pray." Bye. The assault shuttle Phantom cut through the darkness of space, its experimental stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Inside, Admiral Vale checked his tactical gear one final time, as 12 elite Marines did the same around him. Dr. Vega sat opposite, the EMP device secured beside her. 4 minutes to optimal approach vector, the pilot announced. "No indication they've detected us." Vale addressed his team. "Once we're aboard, we move fast. Security will be concentrated near the bridge and engineering. We're heading for the gravity drive reactor housing. Here." He indicated a location on the holographic display of the flagship's interior. "Dr. Vega needs 3 minutes to deploy and activate the device. Our job is to get her there and keep her alive long enough to finish." "And extraction, sir?" one of the Marines asked. Vale met the soldier's gaze directly. "The Phantom will wait as long as possible, but the mission comes first. If we succeed, the flagship will be temporarily disabled, a window for our fleet to inflict maximum damage." The Marines nodded, understanding the unspoken message. This was likely a one-way trip. 30 seconds to contact," the pilot called, matching resonance frequency. "We're in their blind spot, preparing for magnetic lock-on." The shuttle shuddered as it maneuvered into the massive shadow of the Celestian flagship, aligning itself with a maintenance airlock. With a metallic clang that reverberated through the hull, they made contact. "Breaching charges set," the lead Marine reported. "Ready on your command." Vale looked at Vega. "Last chance to stay with the shuttle." She clutched the EMP device tighter. "Not a chance, Admiral." He nodded. "Breach." The charges detonated silently in the vacuum of space, cutting through the airlock. Atmosphere vented explosively from the Celestian ship, quickly sealed by emergency force fields that the strike team passed through before the flagship's systems could register the intrusion. They found themselves in a cavernous corridor, its walls gleaming with an iridescent material unlike any human-made substance. The architecture was both beautiful and unsettling. Angles that seemed to defy conventional geometry. Surfaces that rippled subtly, as if alive. "Life signs," Vale whispered. The Marine with the scanner swept the area. "None nearby, but these readings are strange, almost as if the ship itself is partially organic." "Direction?" Vale asked. "This way," the Marine indicated. Massive energy readings consistent with the reactor housing. They moved swiftly through the alien vessel, encountering only automated systems until they reached a junction where the corridor widened. 2 Celestian guards stood at attention, their armor similar to the Emperor's, but less ornate. They were tall, at least 7 feet, and carried weapons that seemed to be extensions of their armor rather than separate devices. Vale signaled to his team. The Marines took position, and in a coordinated burst of energy weapon fire, the guards fell before they could sound an alarm. "That won't go unnoticed for long," Vale said. "Move." They continued deeper into the ship, the architecture growing more elaborate. The walls pulsed with veins of energy, and gravity fluctuated subtly as they approached the reactor housing. "This is it," Dr. Vega said as they entered a vast spherical chamber. At its center, suspended in a containment field, swirled what appeared to be a miniature black hole, the gravity drive that powered the massive vessel. "My God," one of the Marines whispered. "Set up a perimeter," Vale ordered. "Dr. Vega, how long?" She was already moving toward the control interfaces that surrounded the containment field. "These are similar to the schematics, but more advanced. I need to recalibrate." She connected her devices to the alien technology, her fingers moving with practiced precision despite the alien nature of the systems. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the chamber, its pitch painfully high to human ears. "They've detected us," Vale said. "Work faster." The first Celestian security forces arrived moments later, pouring through multiple entrances to the chamber. The Marines formed a defensive circle around Vega, their weapons cutting down the initial wave. 2 minutes, Vega called, not looking up from her work. "The containment field has to be at exactly the right phase when the pulse hits." Vale fired his rifle, dropping a Celestian officer. "You have 1 minute!" The battle intensified. Though outnumbered, the human Marines held their position with disciplined fire and tactical positioning. But casualties mounted. One by one, the defenders fell. 30 seconds, Vega announced, sweat beading on her forehead as she made final adjustments to the device. A blast struck near her position, showering her with sparks. She flinched, but continued working. Vale moved closer, providing cover fire as the remaining Marines were forced back. "Almost there," Vega muttered. "The resonance frequency is aligned. Now I just need to—" The chamber doors parted, and a towering figure entered. Emperor Krethos himself, his armor now fully activated for combat, emanating an energy field that deflected weapons fire. In his hand, he held a staff that crackled with power. "Primitives," he snarled, his voice amplified by his armor. "Did you truly believe you could infiltrate my flagship undetected? That your childish weapons could harm me?" Vale stepped forward, placing himself between the Emperor and Vega. "We didn't come to harm you," he said. "We came to liberate the galaxy from you." Krethos laughed, the sound distorted by his helmet. "Your species' arrogance is matched only by your ignorance. I have conquered civilizations that were exploring the stars when your ancestors were still living in caves." "Maybe," Vale replied, "but they weren't human." He charged forward, firing his weapon directly at the Emperor's face. The energy bolts dissipated against Krethos' shield, but the attack distracted him long enough for Vale to close the distance and slam into the larger being. It was like hitting a wall. Krethos barely moved, sweeping his staff in an arc that caught Vale in the side, sending him sprawling across the chamber floor. "Now, Dr. Vega!" Vale shouted, struggling to his feet. Vega activated the EMP device. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a pulse of energy, invisible but felt as a wave of pressure, expanded outward from the device. It passed through the containment field surrounding the miniature singularity, causing it to flicker. Krethos turned, suddenly alert to the true threat. "No!" he roared, moving toward Vega with inhuman speed. She stood her ground, making a final adjustment as the Emperor raised his staff to strike her down. The blow never fell. The containment field surrounding the gravity drive collapsed entirely, and the ship lurched violently. Krethos was thrown backward, his armor systems flickering as the EMP disrupted their function. Throughout the flagship, lights dimmed. The constant hum of power that had permeated the vessel fell silent. Artificial gravity fluctuated, causing everyone in the reactor chamber to momentarily float before crashing back to the floor. "It worked!" Vega gasped, clutching a console for support. "The drive is offline." Vale struggled to his communicator. "Vale to Earth Defense Command. The flagship is disabled. All units, concentrate fire on the command vessels. Repeat, the flagship is disabled." Krethos rose, his movements now slower without his armor's full power. "You've accomplished nothing," he growled. My empire spans thousands of worlds. This ship is but one vessel. Another will take its place, and another after that, until your world is dust." "You still don't understand," Vale said. "This was never about destroying your ship. It was about showing the galaxy that the great Emperor Krethos can bleed." As if to punctuate his words, the flagship shuddered under external weapons fire. Through viewport panels, high in the chamber walls, they could see Earth vessels attacking, joined now by ships of unfamiliar design, vessels from the Antares coalition and other subjugated worlds, seizing the moment to strike. Krethos stared in disbelief as reports flooded in through his damaged communication systems. Rebellions across the Dominion, simultaneous uprisings on 17 worlds, fleet commanders defecting. He turned to Vale, incomprehension in his silver eyes. "What have you done?" "We showed them something more powerful than fear," Vale answered. "Hope." The Emperor lunged forward with a roar of rage, but his movements were predictable now. Vale sidestepped, using the larger being's momentum against him. As Krethos stumbled, Vale delivered a precise strike to a junction in the Emperor's armor, a vulnerability revealed in the Antares Coalition's data. Krethos fell to his knees, his armor systems failing completely. Around them, the remaining Celestian guards hesitated, uncertain without their leader's invincible presence. "Your empire is finished," Vale told the kneeling Emperor. "But your people don't have to die today. Order your forces to stand down." Krethos looked up, hatred burning in his eyes. For a moment, Vale thought he would refuse. Then, slowly, the Emperor reached for his communications device. "All Celestian forces," he said, his voice no longer carrying its confident resonance. "Cease hostilities. Return to formation." Throughout the solar system, the Celestian attack halted. Warships withdrew from Earth's orbit, returning to positions around their flagship. Vale helped Dr. Vega to her feet. Of the 12 Marines who had accompanied them, only 3 remained standing. "Can you walk?" he asked her. She nodded, though blood trickled from a cut on her forehead. "What now?" Vale looked at the defeated Emperor. "Now we rebuild, not just Earth's defenses, but the galaxy's future." 1 month later, President Reyes stood before the newly formed Galactic Concord, an alliance of worlds that had seized their freedom in the wake of the Celestian Empire's collapse. Representatives from 100 species filled the Great Hall on Tantalus Station, now repurposed as a diplomatic center. "The road ahead will not be easy," she told them. "The power vacuum left by the Dominion's fall has created new conflicts, new challenges. But for the first time in centuries, the peoples of this galaxy determine their own destinies." She gestured to where Admiral Vale and Dr. Vega sat among Earth's delegation. "The victory we celebrate today came at great cost. We honor those who sacrificed everything for freedom, not just humans, but beings from every world represented here. The Celestians believed in rule through dominance. We propose a different path: cooperation, mutual respect, self-determination, each world sovereign, yet united in common cause." Former Chancellor Liao, now serving as Earth's diplomatic envoy, leaned toward Vale. "She makes it sound so simple," he whispered. "The reality will be far messier." "Most worthwhile things are," Vale replied. He glanced at Vega, who still bore a scar from the battle aboard the flagship. "But I've learned that humanity is at its best when facing the impossible." As the assembly erupted in applause at the conclusion of Reyes's speech, Vale's communicator signaled an incoming transmission. He excused himself, stepping into a quiet alcove to answer. The holographic image of Lyra Solari appeared. Since the Empire's fall, she had emerged as the leader of the Celestian Reformation movement, working to transform her people's militaristic culture. "Admiral Vale," she greeted him. "I thought you should know. The tribunal has reached its decision regarding Emperor Krethos." "Exile?" She nodded. "To a monitoring station at the edge of the galaxy. He will live out his days observing the universe his ambition nearly destroyed. A fitting punishment, Vale said. And the transition on the Celestian homeworld? Difficult, Lyra admitted. 3 centuries of imperial ideology cannot be undone in a month. But we're making progress. The younger generation, especially, embraces change. Keep at it, Vale encouraged her. Earth stands ready to assist. As the transmission ended, Vale rejoined the assembly, where President Reyes was concluding the ceremony. Let history record that when faced with annihilation, humanity chose defiance. When offered slavery, we chose freedom. When told to submit, our answer shocked the galaxy. She raised a glass in toast. To a new era, not of dominion, but of concord. As glasses rose throughout the hall, Vale caught Vega's eye across the room. They shared a quiet smile, both knowing that the real work of building this new galactic order was just beginning. But for the first time since that colossal warship had appeared at the edge of their solar system, the future stretched before them, not as a countdown to extinction, but as an horizon of possibility. In the vastness of space beyond the station, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to empires and rebellions, to victories and defeats. Yet among those stars, beings who had once lived in fear now looked upward with hope, telling their children the story of how a small, blue world had changed the course of galactic history with a single word: no.